So everyone knows that on this YouTube channel, I've done many versus scenarios. So I figured I'd throw my hat into the ring of, could this character beat Homelander? Out of every character I love, I chose K99 because I have never found a single video on power scaling him. You would think that a niche YouTube video would exist, but nope. So I'm taking matters into my own hands, and let's just say K99 is an absolute powerhouse. Today's video will probably be the most statistical I have ever been without having to use Rochella. So, without further ado, let's get into just how strong the one and only perfected Kyo clone is.
You take the battle, it's over, that I've lost my composure, cause I'm staring into space. And now my heart's beating fast, so you make me start a new chapter, I'll soon reveal the beast. There's a beast in my soul, and it wants to evolve, can't pushing me so I can end it. Now the words leave your tongue, where your death power comes from, saying to do that which that you condemn to.
So in case you have never seen anything having to do with KOF, or just know nothing about the lore of K99, aka Cronin McDougal, K99 is an extremely powerful antagonist of the Nests saga, being the 9,999th clone of the 4-year champion of the King of Fighters tournament, Kyokusanagi. He was essentially made to be the ultimate clone, and he was proven rightfully so. However, just how strong is the ultimate clone, K99? Well, going off of canonical feats in KOF 2001, K99 is a heavy lifter and a heavy hitter. For example, look at Chang Kohan. This man's body weight is 668 pounds, or 303 kilograms, and that's not accounting for the chains and giant steel ball he has on him at all times. However, it's hard to estimate how heavy the chains and giant steel ball are, but luckily for me, vision exists. When looking at Chang, you will notice his steel ball goes up to the size of his leg, and given Chang is 7'5", or 227 centimeters, we can assume the steel ball is at maximum half his height. So we can assume the steel ball is 44.68 inches, or 113.5 centimeters tall. Using this height, we can use this as the diameter, since the two are the same in the subject of a sphere. And to get the range for the volume formula of a sphere, we just divide the diameter by 2, since the range is half of the diameter. Half of 44.68 would be 22.34. In putting this into the formula of a sphere's volume, we get 46,702.28 inches cubed, or 118,623.7912 centimeters cubed. Using the density of steel, which is 7.85 grams per cubic centimeter, we can assume this ball weighs 15,111.3109,809 grams. Convert this to pounds, and this steel ball weighs over 13,000 pounds, being 13,700 pounds. Keep in mind, this is just the steel ball. We haven't even accounted for the steel chains yet. Assuming these are heavy-duty steel chains, which they likely are, given how big they are, these bad boys are 15 pounds per foot. He has one chain wrapped around his body twice in an X shape, and going off of this, we can assume that this is 4 feet worth of chain. That adds up to 60 pounds, leaving us with his body weight being 668 pounds, his steel ball being 13,700 pounds, and his chains being 60 pounds. So in total, Chang would weigh 13,735 pounds in total. Now you're probably wondering why I mentioned Chang of all people. Well, it's because K99 can throw this man, steel ball and chain and all, over his shoulder. This would mean K99 could hypothetically lift 14,000 pounds, or 6,350.2932 kilograms at minimum. Does this beat Homelander? Feat-wise, yes. Homelander has not physically shown any lifting feats superior to this. However, statement-wise, Homelander wins because he's stated to be able to lift a plane full of people that weighs 36.2874 to 70.7604 metric tons, which, in case you don't know, is hundreds of times more than what K99 can lift, given a metric ton is already 2,208 pounds, or 1,000 kilograms. The winner of this section is a draw, as Homelander has not been able to prove that he can lift more than this, but statement-wise, yes, he does technically win. So I'm going to give this to neither and just say that it's a draw. Next up is speed, and while not exactly measurable, we can assume off of the feats of other characters for comparison. Let's look at Angel and K-Dash, two of KOF's fastest characters on the 2001 roster. Both of these characters move so fast they look like blurs or they look like they're teleporting. This is what is known as translocation, which is where you move so fast you look like you're teleporting. Both Angel and K-Dash possess this ability. In the KOF lore, it is inferred that K99 is either on par with or has surpassed Angel in this category, meaning he is insanely fast. Keep in mind, being fast enough to translocate means you have relativistic speed, which is, if you don't know, a fraction of the speed of light, being with the minimum 10% the speed of light. If K99 is on par with Angel and K-Dash in this category, that means he himself is insanely fast. Does this beat Homelander? Absolutely. There is nothing Homelander can do here. His fastest speed is 18,414.5 miles, or 29,635.26509 kilometers per hour, which is nowhere near 10% the speed of light, which would be 67,061,663 miles per hour. K99 stomps in this category. So you're probably wondering why I've paired K99's IQ with his skills. And that's for one simple reason. K99 has an ability called assimilation. To explain what this ability does, it essentially allows you to read your opponent's fighting style over time to where you can predict and counter them perfectly. What makes this ability even more busted is that K99's assimilation is stated to be faster than K-Dash's by 0, meaning K99 could read your fighting style in seconds. However, even if that is not enough to prove K99's skill, allow me to point out that K99 made it to the finals of the KOF 2001 tournament, meaning he defeated Kyo Kusanagi, a 4-time fighting champion, Terry Bogard, a 3-time fighting champion, and Liana Hydern, a 1-time fighting champion. K99 only lost to K-Dash because he let his obsession take over. Unfortunately, Homelander immediately loses this category because he doesn't even have a fighting style. Because he's a big fish in a little pond, he essentially wins all of his fights in the boys' universe by forcefully punching or lasering. So no, Homelander gets wrecked here as well. K99, once again, stomps. K99 in the KOF lore is a tank in terms of durability. He can tank lightning, fire, and energy attacks. Keep in mind, lightning is 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 30,000 degrees Celsius. That is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. This would mean that K49 could tank Homelander's heat vision, since the best feat Homelander's heat vision has is melting steel, which takes a temperature of 2,500 to 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit to do. Does this beat Homelander feat-wise? Yes. If Queen Maeve can give Homelander a nosebleed, then his durability is definitely not on par with K49. Statement-wise, that's debatable, because apparently a character stated that Homelander could survive a nuke, but multiple fans have disproven this, meaning Homelander might not be able to survive a nuke. I'd give K49 the win though, given that Queen Maeve giving Homelander a nosebleed shows that he does not have the durability to survive a nuke, much less K49 himself. Given that K49 can keep pace with Kyoku Tsunagi and many other of the fastest fighters in KOF, I think there's no doubt K49's stamina and endurance is off the charts. I don't know what else to say. I guess Homelander has good stamina as well. Endurance-wise, no, because this goober has fled fights a ton. So I'll give this to K49. K49 has a crap ton of abilities, and even if you remove the abilities he does not use in his fights, like the ability to change his hair from spiked and white to messy and blue, you still have a busted ability list. For starters, he has polymorphic arms. To explain, he can shape his arms into whatever weapon he needs, and it comes in 3 forms: a blade, a drill, and a shotgun. This means he can shoot you out of the sky if he needs to. What makes this ability even more busted is that the shotgun arm will explode you with a grenade-like explosion, meaning it will hit hard. Not only that, but his polymorphic arms have a sub-ability, that being mutation. On K49's right arm, he wears a blue glove, and when he takes this glove off, his arm becomes a giant mutated mass that bursts at his opponent and hits them like a semi-truck, sending them flying. Second, he has a psionic shield. This also hits like a tank. The only difference is that this hurts more because it's psionic energy. Thirdly, he has pyrokinesis, which means he can create, manipulate, and control fire. Not only that, but judging by the flames he makes, which are bright orange, his flames are likely 1,200 degrees Celsius or 2,192 degrees Fahrenheit. This will severely burn you, and given Homelander's durability, I doubt he could take on fire without getting a scratch. Fourthly, K49 has enhanced athleticism. He's stupid fast, but the interesting thing is K49 can jump twice his height. Given K49 is canonically 5'6", he can jump 11 feet into the air! Finally, K49 has telekinesis. Granted, his telekinesis only shows up in one attack, but it's still there. We can assume that K49's telekinesis isn't very strong, since he only ever used it to fling dust. However, what I do know is that this attack will push the opponents back and hit them a couple times, meaning this telekinesis will also likely hurt you if you get hit by it. Does this beat Homelander? Yes, it does. Homelander only has an array of a few abilities, those being heat vision, super speed, flight, super strength, and enhanced vocal cords. The only ability that would really affect K49 is the enhanced vocal cords. It might hurt his ears, maybe burst his eardrums, but I doubt it since KOF has some pretty loud attacks. So K49 is likely used to high volumes of sound. Overall, K49 stomps. Once again. So, if you don't know what I mean by control, I mean control over their abilities. Unfortunately, K49 loses this category only because his mutating arm is uncontrollable for the most part. To explain, K49 has to wear a blue glove to keep his arm from spiraling out of control, And while yes, he can direct where his mutated arm can attack, it still does not mean that it's uncontrollable. With Homelander, he still has full control over his abilities. If you ask me, I'd still give K99 the win, but because the definition of this category is who has more control over their abilities, I reluctantly have to give Homelander the win here. Do I really have to explain this? Obviously, K99 has more fighting experience than Homelander. I mean, even without the tournament, K99 was excessively trained by Nests to be insanely strong. I mean, what the heck has Mr. John Homelander done in his years of experience that K99 hasn't done? Homelander couldn't even kill or defeat Queen Maeve. What's he going to do against Nest's golden boy? Laser him to death? That can't work because he's tanked lightning, meaning the laser would just barely hurt, if it would hurt at all. Punch him? Did we forget Terry's Buster Wolf exists? Or Kyo Kusanagi's existence? Both of these two can punch with the force of a semi-truck, yet K99 defeated them both. The only real thing he could do is outperform K99 in physical strength, but that's literally it. Homelander would essentially become K99's punching bag because he can't do any real damage to K99 and can only outperform him in physical strength. I'm sorry, but K99 takes the cake in this category. Homelander is about to get absolutely stomped. I'm sorry, but putting K99 up against Homelander is like putting an atomic bomb up against a coughing baby. Literally, there is nothing Homelander can do to harm K99. Not to sound like a broken record, but Homelander literally only outperforms K99 in strength and control. Homelander is literally a big fish in a little pond, while K99 is a beast amongst experienced fighters in KOF. Do you want to know what I think would happen? The fight would start and K99 would beat up Homelander really well. Homelander would try to flee by flying, and K99 would leap into the air and grab him by his ankle and throw him back to the ground. Either that or he'd shoot Homelander out of the sky like a duck. My point is that Valt's Golden Boy, pitted up against Nest's Golden Boy, is an extremely unfair fight because K99 obviously wipes Homelander. K99 would literally chokeslam Homelander, then stomp on his back as he lays on the ground in agony. I mean, you would be putting a superpowered narcissist up against a superpowered psychopath. Homelander has better chances of beating Yuri Sakazaki, and even then, he still gets absolutely wiped. Also, to answer the question in the title, yes, K99 can destroy a city. I mean, he has the durability, speed, and attack power to do so. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if he could destroy a city. So yeah, Homelander gets absolutely demolished. That's all for now, and this is SJ Raikou signing off. Peace!